everybody. Welcome to episode 33 of the Canberra Football Show. I'm Matt Nicoletti. Joining me today is Russ Gibbs for our NPL1 segment. Russ, how you been, mate? I know we did a game on the weekend, but in general.
Yeah, I've been very good. And you can see that I've been so impressed by England's performance in the Euros that I've nailed my colours to the mast of Australia for the European Championship because they won't let me down. But it's been good, mate. And we did the match on the weekend, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. But again, it's been a great weekend of football in Canberra, and there's been some pretty impressive results going around in all the competitions. And I know you'll speak to Chris Webb about NPL2 later. That competition's really hotting up. And myself and Bandy Bennell had a very pleasant evening with the O'Connor Knights, talking about his book, Riding Shotgun, on the weekend. And I let them know, and I can let you guys know as well, that on the 10th of July, we should be at High Street for live commentary on Queanbeyan City versus O'Connor Knights, our first NPL2 match. Quite a big one, I guess.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, there's two weekends usually that are really big in NPL2. It's this one that just happened, and it's the one in a couple of weeks' time where you got those big derby matches, which we'll get onto later. But that should be a cracking one. It's good to see that NPL2 is getting some coverage that weekend as well. Yeah,
I think when they put all the NPL1 games on the Sunday, and you guys do a great job with the WNPL, it frees us up to go and expand the net, if you like. And hopefully, a few years down the track, we get some more commentators on board. We can start looking at perhaps covering big state league games as well, further down the leagues, if there's a title decider or there's grand finals. So maybe we could do some of those things.
I guess we'll just wait and see if they reform the leagues or not yet.
I'm sure they will. They have plenty of day. I think it reforms every couple of years, doesn't it?
All right, and you mentioned the game we did on the weekend. Let's start with that one first, because by timing, that was the first one. We had Canberra Croatia 5, West Canberra Wanderers 0. First versus second heading into this one. Barach, Kalfas, Taneski with 2 goals, and Cashman with an own goal for Canberra Croatia. It really seems like Canberra Croatia starting to hit their stride now. Dominant victory over West Canberra Wanderers. Nikos Kalfas, arguably the star of the first half. He got a goal and an assist, and they just gave him a little bit of space, and he immediately took advantage of it. And that assist, by the way, what a beautiful ball. You can see it on Russ's Facebook if you have him as a friend on Facebook.
If you don't have me.
And the defense of Canberra Croatia did a very good job to mark Jay Selden out of the game, I thought. He seemed pretty frustrated by the way he was being marked out of that one. And they also did the same to Alessandro Pena. They are 2 players who have been really good for Canberra Croatia going forward this season. And let's not forget, there was a pretty heavy slide tackle on Nikos Kalfas in the first 2 minutes, I believe. And then he came back even stronger from it. But he ended up sitting out at halftime. And West Canberra Wanderers had a close chance at halftime, just before halftime, that they weren't able to take. Maybe they could have swung the momentum if they had it. But overall, I think they'll be a bit disappointed because their final product and their crosses weren't what you would expect and what they would expect of themselves. And I thought Zedlan Mutlu was a bright spark in that second half for the Wanderers. What did you think about this one, Russ?
Yeah, I think Canberra Croatia were comfortable winners in the end, but they were made to work hard in the first half. They had that spell, as you mentioned, 3 minutes where they scored twice, and they looked really ominous, didn't they? They looked very, very good going forward. Like you said, that's the best I've seen Kalfas play in a long, long time. I understand that when he went in at lunchtime, I was going to say at halftime, and he's we speculated about it on the broadcast on the weekend, that when you take your boot off after you've taken a knock and you sat there for 15 minutes, it swells up, and it wasn't great for him, but they took him off as a precaution. Hopefully he's okay because he's hitting his straps at the moment. Great goal he took as well. Great assist, as you mentioned. The pass was sublime. Turning point was that opportunity on halftime, wasn't it? Jackson Pazer, if he could pull that one back, it's 2-1 at the interval. It might be anyone's game. I think 5-0, it's difficult to say it flattered Canberra Croatia because they deserved to win. But when you consider in the second half, the 3 goals they've got, one which was from the penalty spot, that's 100% penalty. One was a complete fluke. And I think Taneski will admit to that. But it was about time he had a bit of luck, I think he said to me afterwards. And the third one in the second half, poor old Aaron Cashman. I mentioned in comms he's only ever scored 2 NPL goals at the right end. And he fairly banged that one past Mason into land. He got his lines all wrong. So I think Canberra Croatia were looking in good form. And it's difficult to see. I can't understand with West Canberra Wanderers how they've lost 4 games this year, and all 4 of them have been at home. It's been a bit bizarre, isn't it? But yeah, it's definitely a good win for Canberra Croatia. You'd hope from West Canberra Wanderers' point of view. You mentioned a couple of the players that that stood out. Jay Selden was quiet in terms of goal chances, but he looked their best threat. And Zidane Mutlu came on and was excellent. So they've got a big one this weekend against Canberra Olympic, and they need to bounce back and get some points on the board. And if they can, they'll keep up their challenge. And
this is West Canberra Wanderers' first back-to-back defeat. I think I said on the broadcast as well. So it shows how they've always been able to bounce back after a defeat. Weren't able to do it this time against Canberra, Croatia. One question I have for you, Russ. Tedeschi, 2 goals. You mentioned one of the goals, but he's only been around for a couple of weeks. He was one of their new signings, came in from another state. It was New South Wales, I believe.
Yeah.
And so how do you think he's sort of integrated into this team?
He's had his moments. He came down from Rockdale, I think it was, and he took him a while to settle in. He's brings a different dimension to it. They're all their forwards. They've got a different types of players. Kalfas, Barac, Grunic, and Nick Tedeschi as well. Leads the line well, holds the ball up, gets involved. And, he's that kind of player, and he needed a goal. And he'd had one, and it was that tap-in with the first game he played against Olympic. And he took the penalty away with aplomb, and he took his second goal well. So maybe he'll hit a streak of form. And I understand this weekend that Thomas James is also available for selection as well, whether they'll bring him straight in or whether he'll be on the bench or whether he'll make the squad. It's such a good squad. It'll depend on his training this week. But when you bring in a player like him that's got 75 goals in 78 NPL appearances, NPL 1 level, and you add it to that raft of players I've just talked about, they're only going to get better. And that's quite a scary thought for everyone else.
Is there an update on Kalfas with the ankle? Or?
Haven't heard anything, but he didn't look like he was too bad, did he, afterwards?
No, he started stretching
out. And, yeah, so I'm thinking maybe a precaution. It was a fairly hefty challenge by Seamus Carr. I don't think there was any malicious intent at all, and you could see Seamus apologise straight away, didn't he? But yeah, it would have been a sore one for Nikos, and if it did fire him up, it certainly fired him up in the right direction, didn't it? Because he was probably the best player on the field in the first 45 minutes.
And any last reactions from Wanderers heading into this weekend? Like you mentioned, it's a big one against the Olympic, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But like I said, it's their first back-to-back defeat. Yeah. And it was like you said, they've lost 4 matches at home now, and a couple of them have been by a hefty margin, which is not, which is a bit bizarre considering, how well West Canberra have been this season.
Yeah. I think, you look at it from Yoogli's point of view, and they lost the first game 4-1 to Gungahlin, and people going, they were the bottom last year, they're not going to do very well. Then they won a few, and everyone was going, well, maybe that's a bit of luck. Then they got spanked by the Tigers, and everyone went, well, that's their bubble burst. And then they reacted, and like you said, and they come out and they won a few more games, and everyone's going, well, they're the real deal. And then they got beat by a Monaro side who were on an upward curve. And now they've got turned over by probably the best team in Canberra, although Tigers and a couple of others might dispute that point. But I think they've got the importance for them now is that they've got a game next week against Canberra Olympic. They beat them earlier in the year after being 2-0 down to win 3-2. So they'll look at that with Selden, with Mutlu. Ben Obst was in their under-23s on the weekend. He signed for them as well. So another good addition to their squad. And it's really important how they bounce back now. And if they can keep the pressure up, because you've seen the table. Everyone's seen the table. It's so tight. Yep. One win can drop you down a couple. One win can put you up a couple.
And the next match we have is Monaro Panthers 2, Belconnen United 2, Dominici with the penalty and Calabria with the goals for Monaro. And then we have Luca Flores and Green with the goals for Belconnen United. Pretty tight matchup in this one. Not a lot happened in the first half. Both sides sort of just cancelled each other out in that regard. Second half, though, was a bit of a blinder, filled with lots of dramatic moments. Belconnen took the lead. Then Monaro went up 2-1, and then Belconnen equalised I think about 8 minutes or 7 minutes before the end of the match. And the game seemed pretty feisty as well. A lot of hefty challenges in that one as well. There was a few yellow cards, I believe. Also, Monaro would have been disappointed not to hold on to that win, because all 3 points would have meant they were in the top 4 if they won this one. It would have catapulted them into there. The penalty that they received was there was a bit of talk behind that one. Little controversial, that penalty. And once again, Josh Calabria steps up with another goal from fullback. His leadership and his goals have just been fantastic for Monaro Panthers this season. Belconnen United, though, they'll once again be disappointed with a draw, since they've yet to pick up a victory since that victory against Canberra, Croatia in round 5. Luca Flores gets on the team sheet, which is good to see, considering he does have a different role, like we've mentioned, in this team. It's not the same as the 4-4-2 where he played up front. He's more of a creator this year. And it was good to see Curtis Schaefer as well getting the assist for Max Green's goal in his first start, I believe, for Belconnen United. So there was a lot to unpack in this one, Russ. What did you think about it?
Yeah, there was, wasn't there? And I think, again, we talk about how tight the table is. And you say Belconnen haven't won for 5 matches now, and they're still
in the top four.
In the top 4. And that just goes to show how tight it is. Everyone keeps beating everybody else and getting points. And I think at the end of the day, 2-2 is probably fair. A point, it helps both teams. And as you said, a few weeks ago, we were sat here, Monaro Panthers were at the bottom of the table, couldn't buy a win. They were a couple of minutes away from getting a place in the top 4. And it was good to see, as you said, Curtis Schaefer make his debut. And now that Michael Mentor's left the club, there'll be a bit more onus on him to step up. And it opened the door for young Max Green to make his debut. And what a debut it was. Comes on and gets an equalising goal. Belconnen took the lead, as you said. Luca Flores, he needed a goal. He's not been quite as prolific as he was last year, and that happens sometimes. I think it's to do with the hair. He had a really sharp haircut last year, didn't he? He's grown it out this year. So maybe if he shaves it off again.
That seems to be the in style now. Everyone's got that sort of haircut at the moment.
Yeah, maybe if he shaves it off again, he might start scoring buckets of goals. Who knows? But yeah, and you mentioned Josh Calabria. It's incredible. I had a look at the goals again on the highlights, and it was a good header at the near post. I think Jordan Thurtell would have been disappointed with his defence. Fab would have been, Michelli would have been disappointed as well that they've conceded off a near post free kick, which he's flicked in, which it shouldn't really be happening. But you can't take it away from Josh Calabria. I mean, he just keeps popping up. And again, yes, it was a soft penalty and was controversial about it, but I think Francatia and Monaro Panthers will point to several that they feel they haven't got this year. And it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? If that's what football does for you. So 2-2, probably fair at the end of the day. Is it a good point for both teams? Yeah, probably is. Keeps Belconnen in that 4, in and around the mix, and also keeps Monaro Panthers momentum going.
Yeah, look, it certainly does. And yeah, we mentioned Monaro there, and if they got the win, they were in the top 4. If Belconnen didn't get the win, they weren't in the top 4. And would you say that you're starting to see the best of Monaro now? It's starting to come now?
Yeah, well, I'm going to pat myself on the back. But I said at the start of the season.
That's what I was alluding to. So.
At the start of the season, thanks, mate. I think we mentioned in the preview that when you get a new group of players together, it does usually take 8-9 weeks or so for them to gel as a unit, because it's a new team, new style, new coach, new different way of playing. We saw it with Tigers. It came a bit earlier for them under Ryan Grogan. They didn't start the season particularly well either, but once they've got the method and the coach gets their ideas across in the way they want to play, and the players start to buy into that idea, all of a sudden it starts to change. And that's happened for the Monaro Panthers. And I had no doubt about the quality that they've got is helped them out. Yeah, they've lost some players as well. Look, when Ahmed Shaibu has left to go to SD Raiders. Dom Gianpaolo made his debut off the bench for Gungahlin United on the weekend, having made the switch. Sam Smith has left for ANU State League as well. So they've lost a few of their forward players. But the ones they brought in and the ones that are doing the job for them are the young boys. I mean, Bessa Silk's been outstanding. And I've been like the look of young Bo Harvey off the bench. He's added something a little bit different to Frank Casia's lineup. And the signing of James Wilson, the pickup from Adelaide, he looks a really good prospect. So I think we're seeing what we thought we would see with the Panthers, but maybe with not quite the personnel that we thought we would see it with.
And before we move on, you mentioned there Michael Menza leaving the club. It opens up a room for Curtis Schaefer. Do you think Curtis Schaefer sort of rotates with Darren Bailey in that position, or it depending on what sort of game it is? Because at the moment, I think Fab even said to me before, he's like, it's a bit hard to deny him playing up front when he scored 4 or 5 goals before this round.
A big fan. I've been a forward myself about momentum. When you're a striker, it doesn't matter what division you're playing in, what league you're playing in. When you're getting goals, the goal seems massive. It doesn't matter where you're playing, and you get runs of goals. And just spoke about it with Nick Taneski just before. He might well go onto a run of goals now that he's got a couple under his belt last week. So yeah, it's difficult when you've got a player that scored 5 goals and he's not an out-and-out natural striker. It's hard for him to be left out of that opportunity. And Curtis Schaefer can give you something a bit different. He's got bags of pace, and that's really hard to play against. I think you'll find no defensive guru myself, but I'm pretty sure if you spoke to any central defenders in the world at any level, they'll say the worst thing that they hate is pace. I mean, you look at the Euros, you watch Mbappe going at people and the sheer acceleration. And there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you could be the best defender in the world, but if you've got someone who's twice as quick as you are, you're not catching them. and he brings that to the group. Bit raw still at NPL1 level, that's to be expected. But I saw his debut off the bench against Olympic. I thought he offered a fair bit. He puts himself about. Got an eye for goal, as we know. So, yeah, to answer your question in a long-winded way, I think it will depend on the opposition. I think it will depend on how Fab feels Curtis is adapting to life in NPL1. And also, I think it will depend on very much on how Darren Bailey is able to transition from defence to attack. At the moment, it's no problem for him.
Certainly isn't at the moment. And our third matchup, we have Tuggeranong United 1, Tigers FC 2. Murray with the goal for Tuggeranong United in stoppage time, and Popovic and Gulevsky with the goals for Tigers. Tigers, of course, returned to action after last week's match was abandoned against Gungahlin. It was postponed, sorry, not abandoned. Nick Popovic returns to the scoring after nursing a bit of a hamstring injury before the FA Cup final. Gulevsky's goal, by the way, absolutely fantastic. Cut inside, edge of the box, and boom, blasted an absolute bullet in the top corner. Unfortunately for Tuggeranong, though, it's another loss, which now leaves them trailing behind Monaro and Olympic by 5 points. So this is sort of the first time this season there's been sort of a decently significant break in the points between 8th and 7th and 6th, because it's been pretty close between those positions. But in terms of Tuggeranong, Shane Murray, really good finish from the free kick. But like I said, unfortunately for them, it was in stoppage time, so they didn't have a lot of time to sort of capitalize on that momentum. You were at this game with Steve Forshaw, Russ. What did you make of this one?
Tigers were in pretty much complete control of it from woe to go, to be honest, and there was an unnecessarily antsy last 3 or 4 minutes of stoppage time for them after Tuggeranong scored that free kick from Shane Murray, perfectly placed, to be fair. Yeah. It was a good goal. And it was just a shame for Tuggeranong that didn't come a bit earlier, because they found a bit of momentum off the back of that. And they've really struggled for goals this year. And goals change games, and they give you the opportunity to build. But the Tigers looked in good form. Jacob Wiseman made a great stop from Nick Popovic early on, and Popovic scored again. And that's now 8 for the season for him, I think. And, you know, when you've got an outlet like that surrounded by the creativity that he's got behind him, they're going to be very difficult to stop. You mentioned Josh Gulevsky's goals. Good job the net was there. Otherwise, it was on the highway, wasn't it? Because he absolutely rammed that past the keeper. And there's a bit of pent-up frustration in there, I think, for him, because he in our new position, where we are by the bench there, and I think you've experienced it for commentary with WNPL. It's quite raw, because you can see that the two coaches are right there, and you can hear all the instructions. And the bench, the Tigers bench, are having a right go at him a couple of occasions for not doing his defensive work, for not switching, for not getting involved. And I think, you know, when he picked that ball up and he cut inside, there was a fair bit of venom amongst that shot. And I think it was perhaps a little bit of frustration being taken out, unfortunately, for Tuggeranong. But what a hit. And he's in a great form at the moment. I think that's 5 and 4 for him now in successive weeks, including the cup final. At the start of the season, he couldn't buy a goal, which was unusual for Josh, wasn't it? Because he got a lot of goals last season. But he seems to have found his groove now. And Rocco Stricker's being Rocco Stricker. They've got a good bench. There's rumours that they might be signing another big-name player shortly. Whether that comes off, we'll wait and see. I won't put any names out because it's unfair on the clubs. But if that happens, then they're going to be even better. And as a side that's representing Canberra in the FFA Cup round of 32, you want them to be in good form. You want them to have their big-name players playing well. And at the moment, they are. Canberra's a tough place to go. We saw it a week earlier when Canberra Croatia had to work really hard to win 1-0 against Tuggeranong there. Tigers had to do the same. For Mitch Stevens, again, he'd be scratching his head, saying they performed reasonably well. Didn't create many chances, but against a top team, they've only narrowly been beaten once more. 6 draws, 4 losses? They've got to start winning, and they need to start winning soon. And I don't know where that comes from at the moment. They need to find someone to start scoring them some goals. I think the return of Conor Nolan next week after suspension will free up Shane Murray into a more attacking role. But if they can, they need to start picking up results soon. Because that, as you mentioned, that gap is quite significant now.
It's the first time this season.
Yeah, first time this season it has been that significant. However, panic station's not quite yet.
Okay.
I think they've got a big match this weekend, and they need to get something from it. A few weeks ago, you look at that one against Gungahlin and think, well, they might well be win that one. But Gungahlin, as you're probably going to have to mention in a moment, have hit some good form.
Well, they certainly have. And my question about Tuggeranong, you answered there about would there be pressure? You don't think so yet. So in terms of Tigers, you mentioned they might be signing a few more people, and at the moment their depth is insane. Mika Popovic didn't even start that final, and they still didn't have any issues scoring. And we mentioned several times on commentary with the depth that Canberra Croatia have as well. So these two sides especially have depth. Tigers FC now 4 points behind Canberra Croatia, but do have a game in hand. So if they do win, they're only 1 point behind Canberra Croatia. Will we see those two break away with the depth they have? Would you say that sort of gives them an opportunity to, or do you think the league's is too competitive at the moment of the season?
It's a good question. I think they're just looking for one more player to bolster their squad a bit. But in a 21-round competition, and again, I think we spoke about this way back when, at the start of the year, depth is huge. And you've got to be able to bring on players that have got NPL1 quality to their name. And they've got massive depth. Canberra Croatia, we looked at their bench on the weekend. We talked about it off air, didn't we? And we were like, this is a bench that's incredible. I mean, it was Jason Ugrinich, Jordan Lamb, Luke Pilkington
Busek,
and young Mate Busek as well. It's an incredible bench. And the same for Tigers on the weekend. You know, Jared Tanini didn't get on the field, and he's played plenty of games for the Tigers.
He usually starts.
Sam Whitted. Tony Madafari, who's come off the bench a lot this season, hasn't complained as far as I'm aware, just gets on with his job, doesn't he? Goes out there and adds a bit more pace and a bit more dynamism to the attack as well. That depth is really important in the 21-round competition. And I think, to answer your question, I think those two could pull away because they do have that depth. Panthers had that depth at the start of the year for one reason or another. Players have moved on and what have you. So they've got a big squad as well. If they can keep winning games, they'll push themselves back in, but they probably left themselves a bit too much to do. So these two, at the moment, you can't really see them dropping many points, can you? Because they just look in incredible form, which is why in 4 or 5 weeks' time, we'll probably be, me and you, I'd imagine, making the trip down to Nijong again.
For the Canberra Croatia match.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, and next up, you talked about good form. Gungahlin United 4-0 over Canberra Olympic. It was the Bernabeu Madrid show. Bernabeu Madrid with a hat-trick in the first half. It was all him and Anderson as well with a really good goal. Also, like I mentioned, Bernabeu Madrid show over at AIS Synthetic. The Gungahlin forward just dominated play, used his speed, broke when he could, and some of those finishes were just really classy and really nice. And also, terrific strike from Anderson from outside the box. That was really a quality strike there. We've talked a lot about on the show about Gungahlin United, how they've had really good periods in games, Russ. They've had a really good second half, or like I keep mentioning, I still think that half an hour that they played against Olympic that we called it would have been the second or third round now. That half an hour against Olympic where they came back, and I think it was a 2-2 overall. I still think that's the best half an hour I've seen out of anyone in the league this season. They were absolutely terrific in that one. They're also really good against Belconnen United for periods of that matchup as well. So I think Marcel and Chris Cadge will be really happy that they were able to put a whole 90-minute performance together and get the result with that. In terms of them, and in terms of Olympic, they just weren't able to get a grip on the game like they were last week. They'll be very disappointed they were not able to continue the momentum from that victory last week, because like I've said actually a few times in the show, a win for them today would have put them back in the top 4 for the first time in a couple of rounds. Once again, just shows how close it is this season. What do you think about this one, Ross?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Felipe Bernabeu Madrid with a hat-trick puts him up to 7 on the season. And I know he's got his eyes on the golden boot. He keeps asking us when Tigers have won, but did Nick Popovic score again? So he's got his eyes on it. And look, to be honest, if they hadn't taken him off, he may have had a few more. He was in red hot form. And what we like to see about that more than anything is a fit Felipe Bernabeu Madrid. He's had his struggles with injuries this season and last season as well. But it's great to see him back firing on all cylinders. And he just gave us a snapshot in about 45 minutes or 40 minutes or so of what he can bring to the game. You give him opportunities and he'll find the back of the net. And he did so on 3 occasions. And you mentioned Roy Anderson icing the cake in the second half. He's been a great signing for them from West Canberra Wanderers, and his quality, a player that kind of hadn't scored many goals in Premier League up to last season. And now he's starting to add that to his game as well, which is fantastic for Marcel. And he's bolstered his squad as well, hasn't he? He's brought some players in over the break. Dom Gianpaolo, we saw off the bench on the weekend, add something different again. And suddenly they've got an attacking threat of Gianpaolo. You've got Miško Nomoski, you've got Bernabeu Madrid, you've got Michael John, young Moses Garang as well. You've got, players, there's plenty of them. And their bench has significantly improved as well. And he brought on the young boys as well. Like Ethan Stamatis has had a few games this year where he's done well when he's come on. And they're going to have to lean on those boys, I think, a little bit later in the campaign. But again, it's very much like some of the other teams we've talked about. They struggled at the start of the year. Marcel lost a lot of players. He was starting with a whole new group and getting them to used to his training style, his ethos, and how he wants to play took a while. But they're hitting their straps now. And you mentioned the gaps. It's incredible, isn't it? A few weeks ago, Gungahlin were sitting at the bottom. Now, if they win their game in hand against Tigers, which is no means a given, but of course, they're right in the top 4 again, and it's incredible. And Canberra Olympic, for their part, same thing. They've lost a couple. We keep thinking, is that the bubble gone? Are they burst now, these young group? No, they keep bouncing back. Win again, lose again. Got beat on the weekend. Fairly comprehensive this time, but I don't think Robbie Catanach and his team like the AIS synthetic. I believe that they were switched there for the Tigers game, weren't they, earlier in the year?
Yeah, they were.
They got drubbed 5-0 there on that field. And they copped 4 again here. So they're not a big fan of it, I don't think. So yeah, one for them to forget about. But again, for Gungahlin, great 3 points for Marcel.
And that's happened a few times with Canberra Olympic this season, and West Canberra. I've realised that whenever they lose, they sort of lose comprehensively. It's like it's rarely a close one. Do you think it'll? What do you think they need to do to sort of bounce back?
I think the reason that happens is that sides are so positive. Yeah, they go a couple of goals down and they don't think about damage limitation. They think, well, let's see if we can get back into it. And occasionally it works. We saw it at that game you mentioned earlier, the Canberra Olympic Gungahlin one, where it was 2-0 to Olympic.
And they looked in cruise control.
Yeah, it could have been 3. They missed a penalty as well, didn't they? And Gungahlin never gave up. It would have been quite easy for some teams to go, okay, we're 2-0 down. Let's just shut up shop for a bit, make sure we don't concede 4, 5, 6. They went looking. And I think this is what happened with these teams. They go looking. And they got caught out. And they need to bounce back this weekend. And the game that we're covering on Saturday on Bar TV Sports, myself and Ian Worthington, it should be a cracker.
It certainly should be. Let's get straight into that, shall we? That's the first one we're previewing at the moment. Canberra Olympic, West Canberra Wanderers, Saturday, June 26th, 3 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. I'm going to go to draw for this one. Both teams got a pretty comprehensive loss on the weekend, but they're both going to be raring to go and raring to bounce back. If I remember, their last match was pretty close matchup as well. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a draw in this one. Is there any thing you will be looking out for in this matchup, Russ? Any interesting stats you got for us?
Expecting goals and plenty of them. Last time it was 2-0 to Olympic, and West Canberra Wanderers came back, showed real commitment and desire. And that was, I think, a lot of people that stage were looking at that going, they're 2-0 down. Maybe this is what we're seeing from Yoogali's team, but they showed a huge amount of commitment to come back again. A draw's a good bet, I think, but I imagine there'll be a lot of goals. And the good thing about this is that both these sides will look at this and go, oh, we can win this fixture, which will mean they'll go in there with a positive attitude. 3 points for either of these teams, and as you mentioned, in a tight ladder, considering that sides in and around them are all playing each other, of course, anything can happen. But I'm really looking forward to that one, and it should be nice and cozy in the confines of the commentary box at O'Connor with Ian.
It always is, and get there early if you want a sort of live.
Oh, absolutely, because they run out very quickly, don't they?
They have all the games going at once, so that's usually what happens. Next up, we have Gungahlin United, Tuggeranong United, Sunday, June 27th, 3 p.m. at AIS Grassfield 2. This is an interesting one. Before last week, I would have lent with a draw on this one because both sides it's always been pretty close between them, and yeah, but after the weekend, Gungahlin United, they were just very impressive. Bernabeu Madrid was on a roll, so I'm going to go with Gungahlin for this one. How do you see this one sort of playing out, Russ?
Tough one to call, isn't it? Because Tuggeranong don't concede many goals. They're very good defensively. They've got a good back four. The 2 young lads at central defence, Harrison Bunel and Teresian Burgo, are very solid. The return of Conor Nolan will add that solidity that I mentioned earlier, allowing Shane Murray to move forward. Tuggeranong need to start finding some goals. Gungahlin won't find it easy. They've got probably more firepower than Tuggeranong. I think the big thing is that if Gungahlin do win this one, again, the gap increases again. And depending on what's happened the day before, if, let's say, Canberra Olympic do get a result against West Canberra Wanderers, it leaves Tuggeranong well adrift. So their need is massive. I'm sure Mitch Stevens will have something up his sleeve, but if you're a betting man and you're looking at it on current form, you'd have to say Gungahlin.
And next up, we have Canberra Croatia against Monaro Panthers, Sunday, June 27th, 3 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. This is going to be a close one because even when Monaro were struggling at the start of the season, really close matchup against Canberra Croatia. I remember the match last year as well was a very close one. it doesn't matter where either side are for this one. It's usually always a very, very close encounter. Of course, let's not forget the FFA Cup where it had to be separated on penalties. Based purely on Canberra Croatia's defense, and also got Thomas James back as well, I'm going to go with the Canberra Croatia victory on this one, but it's going to be by very slim margins. It's going to be a very close one at Deakin. How do you see this one playing out, Russ?
Yeah, this is our Sunday offering. Myself and Steve Forshaw will be at that one for the obvious reasons that it's two cracking teams going head-to-head, toe-to-toe. Canberra Croatia looking for a bit of redemption from the Cup semi-final defeat. We did the game earlier in the year, myself and Andy Burnell, when Canberra Croatia won 1-0 at Riverside. It wasn't a good Panther side in terms of form at that stage. They come into this on the run now of not having lost for, I think it's about 3 weeks or so, with two cracking sides, and Canberra Croatia in great form as well. I still don't think Canberra Croatia put together a full 90 minutes performance, have they?
Which is a bit freaky when you think about it.
Massively ominous for the rest of the league. But they've got great players, and I'm really interested to see what they do with Thomas James, whether he does start, whether he comes off the bench, and where they put him, because who misses out, because it's a big call for Dean Greenwich this weekend. Nice headache to have. It's going to be a cracking game, that one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a high-scoring draw. Yeah,
and like you see it, like even like I guess the Euro is the best thing now. Like, for example, you got Italy, right? They've got three midfielders. You have Verratti, who's a star at PSG. But before, like, let's just say Italy didn't win their match, they would have been going into that going, oh, we can't bench Locatelli. He's just scored 2 goals. You can't bench Barella. He's the energy at the midfield. Without him, you don't have the energy. You can't bench Jorginho, who's been really good all season. So it's like, so I'm sure like Mancini will be looking at it like, what side are we facing and how can we use the different elements of each player? And I'm assuming that will be similar for Canberra Croatia. They'll be looking at it, go, all right, this match we might need the power and the pace of Kalfas. This match we might need the versatility of Ugaric and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, and that's a good thing that Dean Greenwich has got, hasn't he? He's got options, and options are a great thing to have. I mean, you could, if you're feeling great, you could deploy all of them. I mean, I don't know. You could probably figure it out. Yeah, put him wherever you want. I don't think he will, because that would be quite incredible to watch and make sure we're there if he did. But yeah, he's got options, and that's good. And Thomas James, we know what Thomas James brings to the party. He doesn't just bring goals. He brings dynamism. He brings a bit of aggression. He brings just that joie de vivre of someone we want to watch play football, because you know, if you're in a tight spot, you can give him the ball and he'll do something. That's not to decry what they've got in front of him. He's going to have to work really hard to get in this team, because, you know, Nikos Kalfas, you might think that's the position he might have gone in, but he's been brilliant. Yeah. Daniel Barac, is he going to go in there? Well, he keeps scoring goals. Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned that, and it's going to be incredible to see where they put him in. And I don't envy Dean Greenwich, but I also think that there's plenty of coaches that would envy him with the talent that he's got.
That's a good way to put it. Last up, we have Tigers FC, Belconnen United, Sunday, June 27th, 3 p.m. at Nijong Oval. This, like I said, it's an interesting one. Belconnen United haven't gotten a victory since round 5. But let's not forget this matchup against Tigers. The last round was very, very close matchup. And there was a few, I remember a controversial call on one of the penalties as well, late on in the game for Tigers in this one. Tigers have been in red hot form at the moment. I'm going to go with them, but I think this one might be a little closer than people think.
Yeah, it depends where it's going to be played.
Fair enough. They played, what, 2 matches at Nijong Oval?
I think they've only played one, haven't they? That was
Monaro.
Monaro down there. Of course, they won 3-1, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they haven't had a game at home all season. It's been quite incredible, really, to see them having to play away quite a lot. I think that pitch is a bit of a leveler. I don't think the Tigers, in terms of the way they want to play their football with Ryan Grogan, enjoy it very much. And we saw it in the first game of the season. We were both there, and we came away driving back up the highway there, going, how's anyone going to get to Canberra, Croatia? They've just battered the Tigers 3-0 on their own turf. And yet, when the Tigers came away from there, they look a different outfit. Belconnen do reasonably well at Nijong, if memory serves me right, in the past. They're a really tough team to play against. They've got really good quality and experience in some good positions across the park. Tigers full of goals. It's going to be a good match, that one. And like I said, I think it was a draw earlier in the season, very controversially so, but I think it could well be a draw again. But I'm looking forward to see what the outcome will be of that one. And I think so will Canberra, Croatia, because I'll be hoping that Belconnen could do them a favour. And if, of course, Belconnen get a win, well, they'll push them right up the ladder again.
It certainly does. And before we wrap up, I'll just review the ladder at the moment. Tuggeranong United are in 8th place with 6 points. Then it's 7th place. Canberra Olympic with 11 points, -7 goal difference. Then we've got Monaro Panthers 6th place, 11 points with a -4 goal difference. Then we have Gungahlin United in 5th place with 12 points. Belconnen with a match in hand as well. Belconnen United in 4th place, 13 points. West Canberra Wanderers in 3rd place with 16 points. Then we got Tigers FC in 2nd place with 17 points and a match in hand. And then we have Canberra Croatia on the top with 21 points.
Look at that league table again there, Matt. And you go quite theoretically on the weekend, Canberra Olympic could move from 7th to 4th. Because if the results could, if it only needs Canberra Croatia to beat Monaro, it only needs Tigers to beat Belconnen, and Gungahlin to beat Tuggeranong to beat Gungahlin, which these games aren't, it's not a given. And they win their match, and all of a sudden they're 4th from 7th on the ladder. And that's how tight we are at the moment. And it's really exciting. And we've still got plenty to do as well before the end of the season. It's great fun, isn't it?
It certainly is at the moment. The league's just on fire, and it's great to see all 3 of them as well. Russ, thank you very much for joining me today, and look forward to having you back on. Is there anything you want to plug in that regard?
Absolute pleasure. And thanks very much for having me back on again. And please tune into Bar TV Sports and continue watching the games. It's great to have so many people tuning in. And feel free, if you're watching a game on Bar TV Sports, to drop us a message as well during the match, because we're quite happy to have chats with people during games if there's something that you want to get off your chest, or something you've seen on the weekend that we might not have picked up, or anything like that, or something you might know something about one of the players, might be their birthday or something that we're not aware of. But feel free to do so. And thanks to everyone for your support, not just at Bar TV, but also for the M&M podcast, because it's great that you all keep tuning in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NPLW segment of the show. Joining us again, Jérémy Magan. Jérémy, thank you very much for joining me today, all technical issues aside.
Sorry about that, man. Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure being on the M&M podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Jérémy's got Jérémy's Farmers Corner podcast. He's great at the moment for the Euro, so check that out. We'll chat a little bit more about that when we end the show, but if you want to go listen to that one, it's some great stuff. I was on there. Nick Brosnich is going to be on there. Sam Gray and Russ Gibbs were on there talking about their respective teams as fans that they are, as we are. So looking forward to chat about that just a little bit later on. But let's start with the first matchup. Huge one that you called with Matty Moore on the weekend. Belconnen United 4, Canberra Olympic 2. We had Bobbin with 2 goals, Ewan with a goal, Thornton with a goal. And we had Cook and Sykes with the goals for Canberra Olympic. Brilliant start from Belconnen United in this one, Jérémy. 3-0 up in 10 minutes. Not much more you could have asked for if you're Michael Zukowski as the coach of Belconnen United. Their play was crisp and quick as always. And one highlight I thought specifically was Olivia Bonford's ball to pick out Riley Ewan. I thought that was really, really good. And of course, Michaela Thornton with the free kick. What else can you say? She's always a quality player. Canberra Olympic, victims of Belco's early start out of the blocks. Let's be honest, they're not the first team that have suffered this, and they probably won't be the last, considering the form they're in. Great free kick as well from Ali Cook, and really good skill by Sienna Farrow, I thought, to set up Ashley Sykes for her goal. So, Jérémy, thoughts on this one? There was a lot to break down, wasn't there?
Yeah, exactly. That was a great game to call first. And thanks Nick Brosnich, the coach from Canberra.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Nick Brosnich. Why did I say Matty Moore? I said Matty Moore because Russ kept saying on commentary, Matty Moore and Jérémy are on there. I'm like, oh, it must have changed or something. So I didn't even question it. So my apologies. Nick Brosnich and Jérémy were on it.
Blaming on Russ. It was great to call it with Nick. Last year we had called that game as well. And mind you, last year when we called that game, I think Lexi Forner goes down, and then this year Karen Clark goes down during the game. So hopefully we're not the bad omen for Belconnen as far as losing their best players. A great game to call and a great game for Belconnen. I mean, the best start you can hope for, 3 goals within 10 minutes, and a real kind of like deserved kind of start as well, because they just played offensively and put pressure on the Olympic defense straight away. We know how good they are on set pieces, and 2 of the 3 goals come on set pieces. Nick was calling just before the corner kick, saying that's where they were the more dangerous against Canberra Croatia, and it didn't fail, even if it was a scramble that first goal from Bobbin. Once the 10 minutes are gone, with your Belconnen, you just have to be on management mode. You don't have to push anymore. And that's what they did, and they did well. I think they defended really well, considering Johnston was in defense and not Bella Tamaro next to Karen Clark. And then at the end of the game, when Karen goes out injured, it's Mickey Thornton and Sarah Johnston that are in defense for a good 15-20 minutes, and yet they don't concede. So it shows the depth of talent that there is in Belconnen. Nothing new. We knew how good the program is, and how good the youth is as well in that club. So it's just good to see that they're able to materialize all the promises that they have. It's when we were commentating with Nick at one point, we almost sort of catch each other being like, oh, it's great if Olympic comes back, and it's great for us commentating, but it's also a very good game from Belconnen to be able to score 3 straight away and to just then hang on to that lead. And as soon as Olympic has a bit of hope, then you score a 4th goal to make sure that you get the job done. I think Belconnen did that perfectly. You don't need to do anything else than making sure you stay ahead. Olympic kept pushing, but Belconnen didn't necessarily have the need to open up anymore at that point. So what they did was closing everything down and doing really well. And when you're playing against an Ashley Syke, who every chances she can get past 3, 4, 5 players, and did so this weekend, you just got to hope that you're able to always try and find a way to put a foot in front of the ball before the shot, after the shot, and they did that really well. I think both coaches can be happy with their team. Of course, Nicole won't be thrilled with conceding 3 in the first 10 minutes, but then for the next 80 minutes, technically she wins 2-1. So she'll be happy with the response of her team, and Michael and Nikki can only be happy with the resilience showed by the Blue Devils on Saturday.
Yeah, look, they certainly could. And Belconnen United, we'll mention a little later, but with Canberra, Croatia, but the goal difference, Belconnen United are actually second now, which is the first time they've been behind on goal difference to Canberra, Croatia. So I'm pretty sure you said Michael Zukowski mentioned that to you a while ago, and now it's sort of coming to the fore. So they would have been happy to, get 3 right away, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Belconnen this season has had the other way around. They've scored maybe 1 early, maybe 2 before the first half, and then pretty much like Canberra, Croatia, teams with this experience and with this depth again, they tend to just tire the other teams, and then in the last 20-15 minutes score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That happened against Tuggeranong, that happened against Wagga. Now it was the other way around, and if you can start that way, then all of a sudden you can manage your forces, you can make sure no one gets sort of exhausted. Mind you, the changes happened late in the game anyway, but you could see that it's a different game when you have to manage an advantage rather than trying to run behind the ball, obviously. And you could see that the Olympic team midway through the second half was just tired, and Belconnen, by scoring 3 goals early on, could afford not to be too tired by the end of the game and to keep defending as hard as they did for the whole first half.
And Canberra Olympic, before we move on, Canberra Olympic have improved quite a bit defensively, and the 3 of the backs worked well for them. It might not, but coming up against a Belconnen United, do you think it's just going to take a little bit more time, sort of refining their structure? Because you could see, how far they've come along, especially defensively this season, considering their last match against Belconnen United and Canberra, Croatia. So do you think it's only like maybe this time in the next round we'll see even more competitive Canberra, Croatia defensively against a Belconnen United? Sorry, Canberra Olympic defensively against Belconnen United.
It's a matter of details, right? The first goal is a corner kick that bounces around. Aurelia Haynes is able to bash it first, and then the second time she's not able to put a foot on it, and it's a goal. The second goal is almost offside. There's appeals from offside from where we see it. When Olivia Bonford passes the ball, it looked like Riley Ewan is at best on the same line than the defense, but then there's a defender playing the ball, so maybe they're putting her back onside, which is what the referee I think is trying to explain. What happened though, and the third goal is that free kick from Michaela Thornton. What happened though, and we hear Nicole during the game a couple of times saying it, is that sometimes teams forgot to play the whistle. They say they think they're offside and they stop playing. And so those kind of details have happened quite a bit with Olympic during that game. That foul on that brings the free kick from Mickey Thornton. No coach would wish for his team to commit a foul in that area against any team. Every single team has one good free kick taker, so you don't want to commit a foul there. The corner kick, if you're able to clear it to help Aurelia Hens, that doesn't happen. And with Riley Ewan, if the players don't stop asking for offside but actually go and defend, maybe they could have stopped her. So it's little details, but they're definitely much improved, because besides that, Kira Bobin was probably the most dangerous for Belconnen with her speed on the right wing. But Riley Ewan had to do a lot of runs to try and find a way to get the ball by herself, and Olivia Bunford had to drop quite low to be able to play the ball, which she likes to do anyway, because she likes to touch the ball. But we didn't see a lot of danger really coming on Courtney Hals, Ali Cook, and Brittany Fioresi. And when they play together anyway, those three, they actually now play very well defensively and are actually pretty good at being the first launching pad for the offenses as well. Courtney and Ali have a great foot as far as picking the long ball, and Brittany Fioresi is very, very safe technically and is able to turn around, dribble an attacker and a forward, and always find the just small pass. So I think Olympics definitely much better. A game like this weekend, maybe if Heather Garriok is here, the experience in the middle of the pitch, the way to, once they're 1-0 down, a voice in the middle of the field that says, calm down, it's only one goal, we can get back. Maybe if you have that experience in the middle of the path, you don't concede 3 in a row. Maybe after the second goal, when it's half offside, there's somebody to just calm down everyone in the middle of the pitch. Maybe that's what was missing. That's what Nicole was doing last year when she was playing in the midfield. That's what Heather has been doing a couple of games that I've seen. She probably done that to every single game, but the couple of games that I've called, you can see that she brought that calmness in the middle of the pitch, and maybe that's what you'll take. They're definitely going to be a problem. I think we're going to see it this weekend against Canberra, Croatia, that they're able to turn it up. It's always details, and to eliminate those details takes time.
And you mentioned Heather Garrick there. If you want to see her in action, she is, of course, covering some of the Euros matches on Bar TV. Sorry, no, I was about to say Bar TV Sport on Optus Sport for the Euro 2020 competition. Already a cracking competition that we'll mention a little later. But next up, we have West Canberra Wanderers 1. Canberra United Academy 0. Savanu with the goal in the 72nd minute. Huge win for West Canberra, Jérémy. Of course, coming off the back of those 2 successive defeats, 4-1 to Canberra, Croatia. Like I mentioned, brilliant response from Emma Stanbury's girls. Considering they beat a side CUA who are in very good form and so far the only team to beat Canberra, Croatia in the season. In the regular season. And Savanu's goal, by the way, great little dink over the keeper as well. Good technique there from her. And like I mentioned before, last week's defeat to Belconnen, CUA hadn't lost since like round 2 or something like that, which coincidentally was against Belconnen. So this is their first back-to-back defeat of the season for CUA. What are your thoughts on this one, Jérémy?
I think it's a great result for West Canberra. I thought the game was going to be CUA's for the taking. And when we see the way the girls from West Canberra play, they played on what their strength is. They made sure that they made sure to defend cohesively. They were very dense in the middle of the park. And whenever the United Academy was able to actually bring into the last third, there was all hands on deck. Everyone was defending for West Canberra, and they were trying to stop them as much as possible. The academy had some opportunity. Sasha Grove, Sophia Christopherson, Anna Hunt, the usual suspect, had more than one chance to try and score. They just couldn't catch the target. And when they win against Canberra, Croatia, we almost say that they're lucky to win because they have 2 opportunities and score 3 goals. This weekend was the other way around. They just couldn't pick the target. They couldn't buy a shot on target if they wanted to. So it was a different scenario for them. Obviously, we know what the academy brings to the competition and those kind of games. They're just going to keep running, keep getting the opportunities. But if they don't find a way to put it in the back of the net, then the doubt start coming into the team. And then it only takes one opportunity. And Sam Savani, who's probably the totem for the team right now, she's scoring every important goal for West Canberra, scored a beautiful goal, and she didn't need a lot of space. She didn't have a lot of space. Even she was between 2 players, and she's able to turn around and to put it over Chloe Lincoln, who again had a great game. And it's not often that you're going to be able to beat Queanbeyan, it takes something special. So that brings a bit more, I think, to that victory from West Canberra. No Chena Jaber playing, no Emma Stanbury playing. So, maybe they also got into that game with a bit more of a warrior mindset. Our two leaders are on the pitch right now, so we need to make sure that we play together and we stick together to get 3 points anyway for them. And that worked to treat. I think defensively they were spectacular, even though the academy did get a few opportunities. But if it wasn't for that resilience and that density in the last third, there was probably going to be a different result.
And before we move on, is Tiana Jaber's suspension coming up? Is she back next week? Was it a 3-match one or was it 4?
Yeah, it's 3-match, so it's supposed to be next week. That's what I had read.
Sorry?
That's what I had read, if I'm not mistaken. It's 3 games.
Yeah, I swear that's what I was told as well. So we'll wait and see next week, shall we? Which we'll mention in a little bit. Let's not forget. The next matchup we have Canberra, Croatia, 12, Tuggeranong United 1, Palombi with a brace, Fogarty with a hat-trick, Fenson with a brace, Matic with a goal, Berkeley with a brace, Rhiannon Daisley with an own goal, and Krista Hagen with a goal to round off Canberra Croatia's goals, and Zoe Terry scored for Tuggeranong United. This is Canberra Croatia's largest victory of the season during the season, which also takes them above Belconnen United, like we mentioned, in the ladder on goal difference, which they had been trailing to them on goal difference even when they were on top throughout all the year, the most of the year. And now we've mentioned that how big a deciding factor goal difference can be. Now they have the edge in that race. So Canberra, Croatia are on top in that regard. Definitely not the best day at the office for Tuggeranong United. They'll probably be looking to put this one behind them and move on into the match next week. Jérémy, what do you take away from this one?
Yeah, my English vocabulary or lack thereof made me say a couple of times on Saturday, goal difference can be the difference. And indeed, it's a major factor in this competition. And Canberra, Croatia, did what it took to be able to be in front. It's a conversation that I enjoy having with coaches, and every coach has a different approach when the game is technically won, when you've scored enough that you're safe. Do you keep going at it, or do you slow down and try something else, and without disrespecting the opponent, do you rest some of your key players, etc.? I think this season from the get-go, the conversation have been around the fact that for Belconnen and Canberra, Croatia to be premier, it's going to be most likely a goal difference kind of situation. And so, Canberra, Croatia did what they had to do, 7-0 at halftime, and still score another 5 in the second half, and some cracking goals as well. Rhiannon Fensom's second goal, I'm sure she'll be pretty happy with it, coming from her own half, a little 1-2, and then a shoot from about 25 meters. It's probably not often that she scored that kind of goal. And the result might be harsh, but between Tuggeranong's posts, you got Sophie Rolfe, and Sophie Rolfe maybe conceded 12, but probably has 9 or 10 saves during that game that could have made the score even worse. A tough one for Tuggeranong, but I mean, not a lot of teams can actually hold their own against Canberra, Croatia. There's just a lot of talent in that team. They're not the champions for no reason, and they strengthen their team even more after winning that title. If you have a plan against Canberra, Croatia, if you can hold it for a half, you can maybe make them doubt. If after 5 minutes you've conceded, then you sort of unleash the road roller, and it's going to be hard to stop them. And when you have Brittany Palombi, Grace Gill didn't even score, Chantel Jones didn't even score, but they of course help setting up their teammates. When you have that much talent up front, in front of you, it's just always going to be a long game and a hard one not to concede. So like you say, I think for Tuggeranong, it's a bit of a let's forget about this one and let's focus on to the next one. For Canberra, Croatia, it's probably pat on the back because you got the job done, and now I think it's plus 5 goals ahead of Belconnen and goal difference. So you're getting yourself a little cushion, and you're forcing Belconnen to actually go and get better win, more efficient win, which is going to make the race during that second round and the third very interesting.
It certainly will. And looking at the goal scorers here for Canberra, Croatia, Palombi, Fogarty, Fensom, Berkeley, Hagen. We've talked about a lot of these players a lot this season. One of the goal scorers that scored, Cecilia Martic, we haven't talked too much about her this season. So can you just talk about her this season and how well she's done?
Yeah, she's been great. She came back to the capital last season. She's a former product of the academy, with whom she's played a couple of Federation Cup final and a couple of playoffs as well. Then she went to New South Wales and she came back last season. And tough choices for Nick when she comes back, because he had Amy McLachlan and Rhiannon Fenton as two centre back. She played on the right last season for a while, but she's really a centre back. And then this season, between Amy being injured or unavailable, she found her spot next to Rhiannon Fenton, and it's a great pair. Rhiannon is strong, she's fast, she's very good at stopping whatever danger comes to it, and Cecilia is quite kind of calm and collected. I mean, she has a temper, and we see that temper in some games, but she's very good ball to fit. She's able to turn around and pick the right player. She's able to always be positioned well. She's also able to be a little bit rough on her player to make sure that the forwards know that she's here. But she brings size, positioning, pace, and technique in the defense, and there's not much more that you want to ask from one of your centre backs, right? So he's lucky. Nick, he's got three centre backs that are probably as good as each other, all with their own strengths and weaknesses. And he's got two centre backs that are also able to play on the wings. So he's got a lot of talent, and I'm sure a lot of coach are envious of what he's got in his squad.
Last up, we have Gungahlin United 4, Wagga City Wanderers 0. Jade Brown with the brace, Percival with a goal, and a name of a lady who just made her debut, Michelle Heyman, with a goal in the 85th minute. A bit surprised Michelle Heyman made her debut in this one. I thought Gungahlin United would be announcing it on their Facebook page to get a good crowd there or something. So I was a bit surprised when I saw that she came on. Good to see it though. Like I said, massive win for Gungahlin United, especially needing to bounce back after last week's defeat against Olympic. Like I mentioned, the big news: Michelle Heyman making her debut, coming off the bench, scoring her first goal is always a positive as well. Unfortunately for Wagga City Wanderers, they were not able to replicate, the same performance that they did last week with their victory over Tuggeranong. What were your thoughts on this one, Jérémy?
Yeah, I thought what you thought. If Michelle is going to play, you'd think that Gungahlin was pretty good with their social media. Would announce it. Maybe she got in because they were already 3-0 up. After half an hour, it takes a bit of pressure away from the players when they come in that situation, because she played a good half an hour. She got in just before the 60th minute, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Diego Iglesias thought it was the right moment to get her in. I think Gungahlin played a great football game. This is probably the first time this season that I actually see them playing the football that we know and love coming from the Gunners. The DeMarco sisters, we know how talented they are. We still hadn't seen this amount of passes being strung in the middle of the park that we've seen this weekend. And maybe Jade Brown, seeing the all-time leading W League goal scorer on the bench, thought it was a good moment to score a brace. She'd been a bit mute for a while, and she did so the right way. One of them on penalty that she earned herself, and another one a nice and easy finish. I think Wagga decided to try and maybe play a little bit more defensively, maybe a little bit more densely. It could have worked. I think it's the exact same story as when you face a Canberra Croatia. If you're able to keep them scoreless for half, then you're making in that, and then you can go up. But if you unfortunately concede 1, 2, 3 times before the half hour, and again, it's a penalty, it's a corner kick, it's all those details and set pieces, then the job is really hard for you. And they didn't play badly, Wagga, and after the half hour, they don't concede up until the very end of the game. They just were not probably able to put that team off balance as much as they want to. And we know what the deal is for Sam Gray in Wagga City. He's got quite a few injuries. He's lost Kirili Cameron now, who had been amazing this season so far. It's just really hard for him to get a good competitive starting 11 week in, week out. He's got some great players, but they're very young, and not all of them are experienced in NPLW. He's got that amazing goalkeeper who, again, probably, I think it was 12 or 13 saves. I stopped counting at one point. who's again great on her line. Unfortunately, had to go and get that ball 4 times in the back of the net. Then, you know, when I saw Michelle coming in at the 60th minute, I was like, oh boy, you know, it's going to be maybe 2 or 3 other goals because we know what she can bring. She just needed a bit of time to adjust the aim. And then on that corner kick at the end, she just buried it pretty easily.
Yeah, she certainly did. And I do have an interview up with Sam Gray from last week, and he did say on that, if anyone is a player and you're interested in playing, even if you're from Canberra, shoot the Facebook page message there or whatnot, because they've had quite a few injuries. I don't think any team has had those sort of injuries like he has this season. And that, you know, obviously hurts the depth and whatnot. So if you're interested in playing, and even if you're from Canberra, there already are a bunch of Canberra girls that play for Wagga and their reserves. So that wouldn't be a problem. Just get in touch with him and he'll sort out the details for you. In terms of Michelle Heyman, before we move on to the predictions, Jérémy, where do you see her fitting in? Just do you see her fitting up top? Elka Atolu maybe dropping, because Elka did pretty well last week when Diego brought her in the second half and just plotted her in front of the defense and started distributing the ball, because we all know she's got a great kick, and then you had the DeMarco sisters on each side of it.
I think she'd be a number 10. I think it makes sense, right? You have the best player in the competition potentially, put her where the ball is going to be most of the time. You know, I think she probably, the career that she has and the level that she is, she's probably, with all due respect to all of the girls in the competition, she probably will think faster, move faster, control better, pass better, shoot better. So put her where the ball is going to be most of the time. I think, you know, if you put her in any situations where she's able to make the decision for the rest of the team, then that's where you want Michelle Heyman to play. You know, she is a forward, but she's more than happy to drop low when she's playing with Canberra United as well. So in my mind, it makes sense to that. Even if you put her forward anyway, she's probably going to drop down and do it. It'll be a team, like a game by game situation. You know, of course, when you're going to play against the Canberra Croatia or Belconnen, maybe you want to put her up front because you want the team to be scared and to have to defend pretty low to have to stop her. You probably also, when you play against Belconnen, you probably want to put her up front so that she doesn't have to be in front of Mickey Thornton the whole game. So it also depends on who they play against. We'll have that answer this weekend, of course. But yeah, I think in the middle of the park is probably where you get the best out of her. She's faster than a lot of players in the league. You know, she's bringing what Ash Sykes is bringing. She's bringing what Grace Gill is bringing. She's going to be a joy to see this season. I almost hope that we don't see her all season, and the only reason I hope that is because if she gets a call in the Olympic team, it'd be amazing for her, and if that's the case, then she won't play in NPLW. But yeah, it's great to see her wearing the Gungahlin jersey.
It certainly is, and that leads us straight into our predictions for the week. Actually, let's bring up the ladder at the moment. It's very. I'll tell you what, it's very close. Jérémy, you've made quite a bit of a comeback. So I didn't mention it before. So an NPL 1 between Michael and I, it's Michael 12, me 11. So it's pretty quite close there. We both got 2 last week. You can see the massive difference between our NPL 1 predictions compared to NPL 2 and W. So it goes, the ladder goes me 27, you and Michael 26. We all got 3 correct last season. So there's only 1 point between us. And then in NPL 2, it's me 26, Michael 23. I got 3 right this week. He got 1. So I'm starting to break away there. But geez, the other 2 competitions, not a lot between us all. So let's get straight into this one. The match of the round this week, that will be on Bar TV Sport. Jérémy Magan and Maddie Moore commentating that one. Belconnen United, Gungahlin United, Saturday, June 26th, 3 p.m. from McKellar Park. I'll tell you what, this is going to be a really, really interesting one. I'm really tempted to go with the draw here. And if Belconnen United didn't start the match scoring 3 goals in 10 minutes and saw out the match like they did, I would have went for a draw. But they convinced me. I'm going to go for Belconnen United victory. But this is going to be a really close one, I think. Well, what do you think, Jérémy?
I think I'm going to go with the Gungahlin victory.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't. To be honest, it's too hard to pick. I don't really have anything against either team or for either team.
Neither.
It's going to be a great game of football. I think, it's going to be the details. The only reason why I'm putting Gungahlin is because there's a chance we're seeing Michelle Heyman playing half an hour or 45 minutes. And with Canberra United this season, whatever happened, she was always here to score in the last 5 minutes, whether it was one or two goals. So I think when you have an X factor like this that you can bring in the end of the game, when you have in the Belconnen side, maybe Karen was injured now, Bella Tamaro wasn't here this weekend. There might be something that Gungahlin can do if they want to take advantage of that sort of newly game momentum. And Gungahlin right now, I think, is almost into a must-win situation if they want to make sure they can finish into the top 4, because it looks like the table is splitting. So they're going to have to make sure they get results against the biggest team. They still haven't done that this season. So yeah, I'd say that's the moment where they're getting in their first one.
Yeah, and they're only 1 point behind Olympic. That's why I said it was such a big victory for them this week. So, and Olympic's in 4th place. But if they didn't win, then they would have been below West Canberra in 6th place. So next up, we have Wagga City Wanderers v West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, June 27th, 2:30 p.m. at Gissing Oval. It's always a tough trip to Wagga. I'm going to go with the West Canberra victory on this one, but it might be a little closer than people think. What about you, Jérémy?
I'm going to go for a draw. I think traveling to the Riverina is always hard. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think, it's about time Wagga City got to get a bit of luck on their side, and maybe it's the game where things go their way a little bit more, where they do find the breakthrough early in the game, and where they can break the very dense deadlock that West Canberra has. By any mean, I don't think Wagga City is favorite, but I think they can go into the underdog and get a result this weekend.
And next up, we have Canberra Olympic against Canberra Croatia, Sunday, June 27th, 2:30 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. It's going to be interesting to see how Olympic sort of bounce back after last week. Are they going to make a few tweaks, or like you said, just eliminate the details that they have? I think this is going to be closer than the last matchup, but I'm going to go with the Canberra Croatia victory because at the moment they just look like a bit of a steam train. But I do think Canberra Olympic will put up a good account for themselves. Jérémy?
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. I'll give that win to Canberra Croatia as well. Yeah, I think they're just unstoppable right now. I think that loss against Canberra United Academy, if it's ever the case, arrive at the best time and walk them up when it was necessary. They're on the roll right now. They are playing Olympic, and I think after that it's Gungahlin and Belconnen, so they're going to have to be in top form. And I trust that they have the team. We've seen it now for several times to be able to win those games. So yeah, I'll put that one for the GKN side.
And next, we've got Tuggeranong United against Canberra United Academy, Sunday, June 27th, 3:10 p.m. at Canberra 201. I'm going to go with the CUA on this one, especially considering they haven't won in 2. Tuggeranong, though, it's eventually they're going to get a result eventually. I don't think they're going to go the entire season without at least getting either a draw or a win. So eventually it's going to happen. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but I just think CUA are going to be raring to go, especially with Vicky Linton. We all know, you can see it on the sideline. She's a very, demanding coach, and she brings a lot of intensity. So she's not going to be happy that her side's lost 2 weeks in a row. How about you, Jérémy?
Yeah, same thing. I'll say the academy is getting the 3 points this weekend. And my main reason, I guess, for saying that is Tuggeranong will get points against a team that can have some weakness defensively. I don't see a lot of weakness in that academy team defensively, and especially not between the posts. I think, like we just said, it takes something special to be able to get the ball past Lincoln. And besides Zoe Terry, we haven't seen much of that yet in Tuggeranong. So yeah, I'll go for an academy win too.
All right, Jérémy, thank you very much for joining me as always. Like I mentioned, you can tune in, listen to Jérémy and Maddie more. Call Michelle Heyman's second game at McKellar Park, 3 p.m. on Bar TV Sports against Belconnen United. That's Gungahlin United, of course, against Belconnen United. So, Jérémy, like I said, thank you very much for joining me. And do you want to plug your podcast where you talk about the Euros at the moment? Some good stuff going on there.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, well, of course, everyone's following the Euros, even if it's even if we all
you see my eyes, my bad.
Yeah, I know. We all sleep deprived.
Stayed up. I decided to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch Italy last night. I'm like, I'll just do the script for the podcast now. I won't go to sleep. I'll stay up. And thank goodness I did, because I think only my dad woke up. My two brothers didn't end up waking up. So because they went to go for a nap, I'm like, you won't get up. I can see it right now. They didn't get up. So I made the right decision to just stay up till 2 a.m.
The luxury of being able to be up at 4 a.m. at 7 a.m. There's three things jumping on me, telling me that I have to wake up already. Look, the Euro is obviously a great moment to talk about football. And around Canberra, there's a lot of us that have origins back in Europe. So, it was great to have you in the pod to talk about Italy. It was really fun to have Russ and Sam chatting before England against Scotland. It was quite a bit of banter there. And then I'm just waiting for Croatia to be eliminated to be able to get Nick Brosnich on the post. There's a lot of Croatian people in Canberra. I'm sorry.
I haven't joked. I might text Nick after this and tell the joke I said to you, but I said, just go onto the podcast and just start talking about Canberra, Croatia, and say, I thought you were talking about Canberra, Croatia, because we're winning at the moment. Croatia aren't, so.
That's probably going to be...
And the men's as well are winning also, so you can just talk about double, just to make up for not wanting to talk about the disappointment of Croatia at the moment.
A better chat to have than to talk about their nations. But yeah, I'll probably try and have that chat with Nick after the third round is over, and to talk about what's going to happen with round of 16, etc. So yeah, feel free to give it a listen. Farmers Corners FC, the French football podcast, where I don't only talk about France right now because we're in the middle of an international competition.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jérémy, and I look forward
Thanks,
to having you back on soon. Thanks, mate.
See you, mate.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to NPL2 segment. Very happy to have back on the NPL2 guru, Chris Webb himself. Webby, how are you going today, mate?
Good, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. And let's not forget this weekend, massive weekend. This round always is in NPL2, especially concerning the top four. So we'll be going through that right now. Let's start with one of those matches. ANU 3, Queanbeyan City 1. Peter Carters and Ellis with the goals for ANU. Adams with the goal for Queanbeyan City. Huge win for ANU, which keeps them on the top of the ladder. They're tied with O'Connor Knights on points, but I believe they're ahead by 1 goal on goal difference at the top of the ladder. They went into halftime at 1-0, I believe, and they fought, and then Queanbeyan City fought back to make it 1-1, and then ANU took over from there. But from all accounts, Queanbeyan City started really well at the start of both halves, which is a Queanbeyan staple at the moment under the Wilkes. They always start both halves very, very brightly and with a lot of intensity. They weren't able to take advantage of that early momentum in both halves, though, and ANU were able to take control of the matchup. So what'd you make of this result, Chris? It was an interesting one, to say the least.
Yeah, look, again, you can't say it's all too surprising. ANU did beat them the first time around, but Queanbeyan had been in quite good form, but so have ANU, and that's why they're both at the top of the table. I think what was most impressive about this was ANU with how many players they were missing going into this match. I think they probably had about 6 starters out, and some really big players. Guys like Max Model, who's one of the top 4 or 5 players in the whole league. So dangerous missing him up top, and that they were actually, I think, missing pretty much 3 strikers. Chinay and Liam Neeson were also out, and then Nelson Carey and Matt Rice in the midfield were also missing, and James Garcia, one of the wing backs, was missing. So pretty much, they're all close to being part of the starting 11, and so it just is it's a testament to that depth at ANU that we talked about a few weeks ago. That even with all those half a starting team out, they can still come out and beat who is essentially what everybody thinks is the strongest team in the competition. You talk about Queanbeyan having good starts. ANU have been very, very good at having fast starts, and Ryan Peterkin got a very early goal, which kind of set the game up for them. Michael Keto, obviously, Queanbeyan got back into the game, Michael Adams, and Michael has really been a talisman for them this year, and but then it was a battle of the talisman because Sam Carter's then hit an absolute bomb of a volley from outside the box and with Rory Larkin in goals, sometimes you're going to have special strikes to beat him, and that was a great goal. And then Isaac kind of putting the game to bed at the depth. So, Queanbeyan was still in it. Queanbeyan, while they've been playing very well last week, they were quite impressive against Western. Things are just thinking it's not all smooth sailing at the moment, and the fact that they've lost 3 games, they're 4 points behind that leading pack. That's actually going to be quite hard to make up. 4 points in if we're talking NPL1, that just means nothing because everybody is beating everybody in that competition. But this competition where there's a clear, leading pack, that front 3, and they haven't really dropped much points off anybody other than that front 3. It's going to be a little bit hard to make that ground up. And obviously, finals is, I think I mentioned before, finals is not what Queanbeyan are after. They are after top spot and getting that promotion spot. So that's just going to be a little bit harder for those guys. I think it's the front 3 is an interesting space for Queanbeyan at the moment. Going into this season, it looked like they were just completely stacked in that front line. But now, Hassan Fraser hasn't played for quite some time. Gordon McKeskey hasn't played for quite some time. Alex Olarigby never ended up playing in the first place. So all of a sudden, it's just kind of Mark Shields up there, and really it's the midfielders who are adding in. So it's been some of the younger guys who started off in the under-23s, like Dan Adesky, kind of coming in. And they're very, very talented players who were staples of the Queanbeyan team last year that almost won the league. So Gary's kind of having to go back to the Queanbeyan faithful, I guess, to get these boys some goals. They've picked up a few players, but probably not in that front line. They picked up Colacello in the midfield and Alan Gaston at the back. But it's probably that one thing that I think that might be slightly worrying for Gabby. And I think everybody's probably heard about Emmanuel Ponce as well. I don't think we'll go into that too much, but that's just another player who seems to be gone from there. And so, again, another one of that front line who much was expected from him from the start. So it's a very changed kind of forward part of that team that we all expected from the start of the season.
And we'll talk a little bit more about Queanbeyan City later when we bring up the previews. But one player I wanted to mention was Leo Hadley, an 18-year-old in midfield for ANU. Reportedly had a really good game, really strong in the center of the park, which is pretty impressive coming up against a team in Queanbeyan City, which we all know can bring a lot of pressure in that midfield and compress quite intensely. Yeah,
and look, he now I'm not so Leo and there's another one, Gus Coleman, who came on in the second half. Those two are new to ANU, but one has been playing NPL youth in New South Wales. NPL1 in New South Wales, and the other's been playing NPL1 youth in Victoria. So they've come from very, very high stock. So they have a lot of high raps from the ANU group, and a lot is expected from them. So while they're very young, they're obviously showing that the quality that they have, and they're showing that on the field now.
And the other massive matchup we had was O'Connor Knights 2, Canberra White Eagles 0. Kresic and O'Rourke with the goals for O'Connor. Pretty packed crowd there at Woden Park enclosed. Russ and I decided to head down after our commentated match. He's like, let's go get an Eagle Burger. There was literally every batch they do, you had to pre-order because there was just so many people there wanting an Eagle Burger. So I think I had to wait at least 3 rounds of burgers till I got mine. I was happy to wait, but I'm just, it was great to see how packed out they were. Down there for the NPL2 matches at the moment. So it's good to see. And I'm sure there'll be another big crowd for that Queanbeyan City and O'Connor match in a couple of weeks that Russ and Andy Bernal, I think, are going to be commentating on Bar TV. So it's good to see the NPL getting this sort of coverage at the moment. But in regards to this matchup, pretty impressive performance from what I saw. I was able to see about 60 minutes of the match. Pretty impressive from O'Connor. They were happy to let White Eagles sort of have the ball early on, create chances. They were happy to sit back, break when they could, take advantage of their chances. By the time the second half rolled around, a lot of the possession was O'Connor Knights. White Eagles seemed to tire a little bit in certain parts of the pitch, and O'Connor Knights sort of took advantage. The second goal was a penalty, I believe, from O'Rourke. There was a handball involved there. The ref didn't pick it up, actually. The linesman picked that one up. So they were putting pressure in the second half, and you saw O'Connor's attacking abilities, to say the least. My question, before I ask that, what were your thoughts on the matchup, Chris?
Oh, look, no, again, the results, it's probably exactly how you would expect a game between these two to go. Just knowing the players that they have. White Eagles have been really, really good at holding possession and playing the ball around. They probably lack that same kind of cutting edge that O'Connor do. And if you just look at the pace that O'Connor possess up front, you would be silly not to be playing a counter-attacking style of football. With Packy and Josip and Nico Kresic, Jake Wilson, James Jade Ward, it's a crazy. I don't even know how Miro's ever going to keep all those guys happy, but that's up to him. But
so far, so good.
It's exactly how they should play, and I think everybody is going to struggle to play against a team like that. It reminds me a lot of ANU's side probably about 6 or 7 years ago when they had guys like Alade and Danny Krajcic and Chase Deans kind of playing up front, that on the counter-attack, they were almost unplayable. The pace of all three of them, it was just so hard, and I think O'Connor going to be the same. But in the end, you look, the goals, both set pieces. One of them, I think everybody who'd be listening probably was involved in some kind of football on Saturday. The wind was just outrageous and probably caused a whole lot of goals across Canberra, and I imagine a whole lot of goals off corners. I saw a couple myself on the weekend, and just another one, Nico Kresic putting it in from the corner. But that the wind is it's a tough factor to play football in.
Oh, look, it certainly is. Regarding White Eagles, of course, Graham Plath has come back. I don't think that was the case when you were on last. Maybe he was in the transition of coming back, but it wasn't confirmed when we had you on last. So my question is to you about that. Everyone sort of ended up where they were before the season started, with Steve Forshaw back on commentary with Russ and Plathy back at White Eagles. So what do you make of that whole situation there?
Look, it's interesting, I guess. As soon as we heard about Steve kind of possibly not being there, a lot of people kind of thought they'll come back to Plathy, and Plathy will end up back there. So from Steve leaving, Plathy being there is absolutely zero surprise. It was almost an expectation. The only probably other thing that it would have been was Eric actually staying on and taking the role himself. But I think Eric is already coaching another 20 teams and playing, so it would probably one thing too many for him. But look, Plathy knows these players. He's a very experienced coach, and I think he's going to do a good job. They know exactly what they're getting with him.
And regarding White Eagles, in terms of their chances, they're still in the top 4, but now they're 9 points off ANU and O'Connor Knights. And similar to these other clubs, it's safe to say that their ambition at the start of the season isn't to make top 4; it's to push for that to push for that promotion. And now, like you mentioned, 4 points being such a big drift in this competition, 9 points is probably even worse. And considering they haven't exactly gotten, besides that win against O'Connor early on, I don't think they've beaten any of the other top 3 sides since. So, they did get a draw against ANU.
They got a draw off ANU at the start. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you make of their chances? There seems to be slipping away from them at the moment.
Yeah, look, I think I said this last time that I think it's quite clear that there is a front three. It's kind of that peloton that's breaking away. There's a middle two who are chasing that fourth spot, and there's a bottom three. And I think I mentioned this last time. Points can sometimes be deceiving, but goal difference really tells a proper story. And you look at the front three; they've all got a goal difference of around 20. And then the middle two chasing packs have goal difference of 0, and then the bottom three all about -20. So it's quite clear that there's 3 little groups sorted in there. Now, to keep the cycling analogies going, this is not a sprint. This is an endurance race out here, and I think that's probably the one thing that White Eagles and Yoogali can really hope for is that one of those 3 top teams just start to fall away purely because of personnel and losing numbers. I think I said it before, I can't see any of that front 3 dropping out of the 4, but I could see a Yoogali or White Eagles finishing ahead of 1 or 2 of them. But personally, I cannot see either of those teams making it to first place. That's not to say that it can't or won't happen. It's just I don't see it.
And next up, we have Brindabella Blues 1-0 over Western Molonglo. Only a half was played here. Lawrence with the goal. Like I mentioned, only 45 minutes, and by the time it got dark, the lights were deemed not efficient enough in the darkness, and the pitch was considered not very great to play on either by the ref, so the match was abandoned. Do you know if there going to be the 45 minutes played again, or?
Look, I believe so. I believe they're going to play the other 45 minutes at Woden Park at some stage midweek. Not to say that Woden Park looks much more playable than Iceland Park does, but yeah, look, it was the ground wasn't in the best nick. I was down there, and playing at the late game, they were always dependent on the lights, and so with the lights not working properly, it was never going to be a safe environment to play in. So it's always going to be a very interesting game for everybody to kit up. They have to get exact same players on the pitch, and then just go for 45 minutes. So it's an interesting thing to try and get yourselves up for that. So who knows? Anything can happen. And in professional sports where we've seen some of these games finished off, some very strange things have happened in 20-minute, 30-minute games. So it will be an interesting one.
It certainly will be, and I believe on Sports TG though it says they've Brindabella. It says Brindabella have the win there. That's the only reason why I asked you. So
I think that is just how Sports TG works. Essentially, people just go in and fill it in. It's nothing official from.
That's exactly what I thought. So I was had to ask a question on that one. And what do you think about the 45 minutes that happened here? I know Brindabella got the lead. I heard Western Molonglo had some good moments though in the matchup. So. Was it a pretty even first half? Besides the goal, obviously.
Yeah. Look, it was pretty even. Western started off very strong and had a few chances early on, and then kind of Brindy worked themselves back into the game. And look, it was even, but the conditions were tough. And again, I would say it wasn't not the pitch and not the loss of light, but probably the winds that made it most difficult out there. So it wasn't the greatest game you've ever seen. But look, even with all the guys that Brindabella have kind of lost in the last couple of weeks, they're still got a very good core there, and they're two quite evenly matched teams.
And before we move on, you mentioned how you might have mentioned to me off air, you mentioned Lawrence needing to step up because Schaefer's gone now, and it's safe to say he's done that. He scored quite a bit recently, instead of because he didn't have that, that he would create a lot of the goals for Schaefer.
As we said, I think we did say it last time that he needed to step up, and I think we kind of said we think he will, because he's been playing quite well this year, and as he has the last few years actually, and when you've got someone with the pace of Curtis Schaefer, well, it's an easy decision to make to be the foil and be able to kind of play that final pass. But as soon as you know he's not there, you got to change the way you play, and you're the man now. And he's doing that, and he's scored in the last few.
And last up, we have Yoogali SC 6, Wagga City Wanderers 2. We had Roach with 2 goals, Donadell with 2 goals, Priest with a goal, and Piva with a goal. Suleiman had a goal, and Ocheng had a goal for Wagga City Wanderers. Sorry if I said those names wrong. Huge win, not only by a goal margin, but also by points, as it raises Yoogali to within 1 point of White Eagles, which is very big for them. And we've seen this from Yoogali before. The goals are on their Facebook page as well. They like to play that quick one-touch football. When they've got all the players there, they can play some really, really good football, some of the best football in the league when they're there on their day and they've got the full team there. Wagga, though, created some good chances, scored a couple of goals. They've definitely improved from the start of the season. You can tell that not only from their 2 wins, but just their general play. They're starting to come together now. Their younger players are starting to get to the rhythm of it. Stevens, of course, is also very, very good. I'm not sure if you saw his volley from last week, but geez, that was a cracking volley. I only saw it today from last week, but geez, that was really good. So what did you think about this one?
Look, if this score had happened in round 2, I would not have been surprised at all. But this is probably the most surprising result of all the games, I think. Not the result. I think Yoogali were dead set favourites to win, but to win so handsomely. Yoogali hadn't been playing as well as they definitely could in the last few weeks, while, as you said, Wagga have actually been quite improved in the last few weeks. So, especially when you kind of take that travel element out, it's that local Riverina derby. It was surprising to see, them shipping 6 goals. But as you said, when Yoogali are on, they're on. And last year, Danny Roach was clearly the best player in the competition last year. From everyone I saw, he was more than 2 classes above everybody. He probably hadn't been firing as much at the start of this year, but all of a sudden he's now top of the table. The goal scoring tally again. Obviously, he was the Golden Boot last year, and another quick fire double in this game, and it was a quick fire double, and then resulted in him being set off. So that's actually something that probably will hurt Yoogali. While they got a great victory, I think they would probably trade that in for a 1-0 win and not to have Danny missing for next week.
All right, and before we get into the previews and predictions, let's quickly round out the table for those of you listening. We've got... All right, so I'm not going to go off Sports TJ only because the second half will be played. So in 8th place, we have Brindabella Blues with 3 points. Then we in 7th place, Western Molonglo with 4 points. 6th place, we have Wagga City Wanderers with 6 points. We've got Yoogali in 5th place with 15 points. Canberra White Eagles in 4th place with 16 points. Then we've got Queanbeyan City in 3rd place with 21 points. Then we have O'Connor Knights in 2nd place with 25 points with a plus 16 goal difference. And then we have ANU in 1st place with 25 points and a plus 17 goal difference. So 1 is the separation there. All right, heading into round 11, we start with Wagga City Wanderers against Western Molonglo. Saturday, June 26th, 2:15 p.m. at Gissing Oval over in Wagga. I'm going to go with a draw for this one. Western Molonglo's sole victory this season did come against Wagga. And they have performed pretty well on the road. I know that even when they lost to Yoogali, it was a very close matchup there, and they felt they were unlucky not to come away with at least a point. So I like their chances on the road, but Wagga have improved quite a bit. So I'm going to say a draw for this one. How about you, Chris?
Look, and again, I probably won't win too many friends with this, but look, I think a draw as well. I remember I watched that game, and while Western won, I think Wagga were actually on top for large chunks of that game. They looked quite dangerous on the break, and I still think that they actually are quite a fearsome team going forward. With guys like Jake Plongy and and Jacob Bochang and Luke Stevens. There's actually some really good firepower in that team. And I think that while they're coming off quite a hefty loss, it should actually be a very, very even match. And it was a very even match when they played the first time around.
And next up, we have O'Connor Knights, Brindabella Blues, Saturday, June 26th, 3 p.m. at Queanbeyan enclosed. Of course, both the Missiches went from Brindabella to O'Connor, so it'll be interesting to see if they play or not in this one. Like you mentioned, Brindabella have been depleted a little bit over the in this transfer window anyway, losing the Schaefer and the Missiches and a couple others. So they'll be looking to bounce back in that regard. O'Connor Knights, though, looking really, really good form. There might be a few goals in this one. Brindabella but there might be a few goals depending on, the weather, because if it rains again, which, we've all seen Canberra weekends, if it rains one weekend, you never know what can happen the next. And who knows what can happen, especially with the wind as well. But O'Connor Knights just look like on another level at the moment to a lot of the teams. So I'm going to go with O'Connor Knights on this one. How about you, Chris?
I can't go against O'Connor. The firepower of that team, I think, is probably the top firepower of any team in this competition. So I think everybody's going to struggle to stop them scoring goals. So, yeah.
And especially when they get a lot of their players are yet to come back from injuries, still some of them. All right, and Canberra White Eagles against Queanbeyan City, Saturday, June 26th, 3 p.m. at Woden Park enclosed. This will be an interesting one, especially for White Eagles. Let's not forget the last time around, this was 7-1, I believe, at High Street. So, look, I'm going to go with a Queanbeyan victory on this one. I think they're going to be raring to go after that loss last week. And I think it was a similar situation to what happened last round of matches. They lost to ANU and they were raring to go. It was probably the most impressive bounce back victory in the league, or probably actually one of the most impressive bounce back victories out of all three of the leagues in Canberra, actually, to say the least. White Eagles, they look good when they're on the ball, but I think they're just going to, it seemed like they ran out of steam from what I saw in the last 20 or 30 minutes at the game. And if they do that against Queanbeyan City, we all know the firepower they have. So it'll be interesting to see how this one happens, but I don't think it'll be 7-1. I'm going to go with Queanbeyan on this one. Chris?
Look, I think it's hard not to go for Queanbeyan, but I'd almost probably go for a draw for this.
Okay.
I just, again, I think that was because of what happened last time. I think White Eagles are going to be really up for this game. They're coming off a loss. Last time they were coming off a win against O'Connor. So that would have been a painful loss. White Eagles losing to O'Connor, as you said, with the crowd. It's the biggest game in Canberra football, really, in terms of rivalries. That would have been tough to take. This again is another kind of, it's this Belconnen derby again. It's another rivalry. Such a big loss last time, and that Queanbeyan are just not at 100% right this second. And while White Eagles probably struggled to play against a counter-attacking team like O'Connor, they're probably going to be the ones who will be counter-attacking against Queanbeyan, who are so good at holding possession. And they do have a few weapons, White Eagles, on to play on that counter. So I think that they could cause Queanbeyan some trouble here.
And if you want an Eagle burger, get there early is my suggestion, especially with another derby on. I think there's going to be another big crowd and a big demand for those burgers there. All right, next up, we have ANU against Yoogali, Sunday, June 27th, 3 p.m. at ANU South Oval. This is going to be an interesting one. It was a pretty high scoring one last time. It was at 6-4 or something like that. No, I'm thinking 4-2. 4-2. I'm thinking about the Yoogali White Eagles match from last year. Sorry, 4-2. It was last up. I'm going to go with ANU here, but I do think this will be a very close one, though. I think we could see a lot of goals again as well. I think it'll be a very close one. I'm going to go with an ANU victory. How about you, Chris?
Look, this one I think is probably the most difficult out of all of them, and it's probably, as we were talking about at the start with ANU and they had 6 guys out last week. They then lost another 2. Chase Deans, I think, dislocated his shoulder. He's probably out for the season, which is a massive, massive loss for them. But Rowan Peterkin also did his hamstring, so he'll be out for quite some time. And if you take Sam Carter's goals away, Rowan scored half of the rest of the goals. So it's really now a lot of reliance on Sam Carter's, because with Liam Neeson and Shanae and Max Model and Rowan all potentially missing, that's pretty much their entire front line that ANU won't have available. And so you've got a centre midfielder in Sam, who's scored 10 goals. So it's going to be difficult for ANU to find those goals against Yoogali. I guess the counter is Danny Roach is also suspended. So maybe this is a game where both teams might actually find goals hard to come by, because a lot of the attacking weapons will be missing for this one.
It certainly will be a very close one. All right, Chris.
I didn't give you a prediction though, however. That was a bit Weasley of me. I
was just going to accept it, mate. It's fine. You should have.
Yeah,
right.
Look, I'll go another draw.
All right, too easy. Another draw from Chris. All right, thank you very much, Chris. As always, your knowledge about NPL2 is absolutely impeccable. Is there any last things you'd like to say before we sign off here?
Oh, no, look, thanks for having me on again. It's been great. Michael always seems to be missing whenever I'm on, so I will take that personally. But
he's in Queensland this week at Noosa Heads, so
geez, he'll do anything to not be on the podcast.
I'm sure he'll be on next time, mate. He was kicking himself that he was sick the week before, so awesome.
Right, no worries.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for joining in today. Another fantastic weekend of football. That was episode 33 of the Canberra Football Show. Another massive week coming up. Enjoy the football and enjoy the Euros as well.